My name is Leah Kim. I'm 31 years old, and 5 years ago I left Seattle and never looked back. I worked as a back-end developer for a cybersecurity firm that served major banks and government contracts. I wasn't just good at my job, I was essential. I solved problems other teams couldn't even explain, but outside of work, I didn't exist, at least not to my family. We hadn't spoken since 2016, so when my phone buzzed on a quiet Wednesday night in October 2023, I was stunned to see my cousin's name. Rachel was the only one who had my new number. "Leah," she said softly, "your parents are trying to reach you. They want you to come home for Christmas." I sat down slowly on the edge of my tiny Brooklyn apartment bed. "Now?" I asked, "after all these years?" "They've been asking around," Rachel said. "They seem serious." I hung up and just stared at the wall. I hadn't thought about my family in months. Years, really. But the memories flooded in fast. Always the odd one, never the favorite. I remembered sitting in a cold office chair when I was 13, knees pulled to my chest, while Dr. Patel, my childhood psychologist, told my parents plainly, "Leah's struggles aren't from isolation, they're from being ignored." My mother scoffed. "We love both our kids equally?" But I knew she was lying. My older brother Dylan was the charmer. Football star, class president, golden boy. He got the car on his 16th birthday. I got a thrift store sweater that still smelled like someone else. Even at Christmas, Dylan's gifts sparkled under the tree. Mine were more like afterthoughts. But this year, they were finally calling me back. And they had no idea who I'd become. Family gatherings were always a nightmare. Dylan would hold court, loud, charming, magnetic, while I sank into the background like furniture no one noticed. That's when I discovered coding. It started with a dusty flyer taped to the high school bulletin board. "Intro to Computer Science Club, Room 27, Thursdays after school." I went once. Then, never missed a session. For the first time, I felt seen, not by people, but by the logic of code. The club became my refuge. We rebuilt old PCs from junkyard parts. We traded books, debated compilers, and stayed late debugging each other's projects. I even built my first game on a borrowed laptop. Mr. Alvarez, our teacher, pulled me aside one day. "You've got something special, Leah," he said. "Don't let anyone shrink you." By 17, I had a plan. I'd apply to college, leave Seattle, and build my future from scratch. Dylan, of course, was already enrolled at an elite university in California, riding on my parents' full financial support. Then came that Thanksgiving dinner. My dad raised his glass. "To Dylan, making us proud at Stanford." Cheers erupted. Then Mom added, "As for Leah, we're encouraging her to find steady work." My uncle cracked, "We're hiring dishwashers at the diner." The whole table laughed, including my parents. I didn't laugh. What they didn't know was that I'd already secured a full ride to a top-tier tech program in New York. Tuition, housing, even a stipend. All covered. I packed up quietly and moved into a dorm in Manhattan. Waitress part-time. Graduated top of my class. Landed a dream job at a cybersecurity firm before the ink was dry on my diploma. 4 years later, I'd just led a multi-million-dollar integration for a global bank. The bonus? Enough to buy a brownstone. So, I called a realtor. Within a few days, my realtor found it. The perfect brownstone condo in Fort Greene. 2 bedrooms, sleek kitchen, exposed brick, close to the park. At 31, I officially became a homeowner. 2 weeks before Christmas, I hosted a small housewarming. Just my real friends. The ones who'd seen me pull all-niners, cry over failed code, and still show up every day. We sat on floor cushions with Thai takeout and cheap wine, surrounded by unpacked boxes and laughter. Lisa raised her glass. "To Leah," she said, "the quiet one who turned silence into power." We clinked glasses. I smiled, but a thought lingered. I was going home in a week. But this time, I wasn't going back as the invisible girl. This time, I was coming back as someone who knew her worth. The week before Christmas, I took time off work, wrapped simple but thoughtful gifts, and drove the 6 hours back to my childhood neighborhood in North Seattle. The house hadn't aged well. Faded siding, overgrown hedges, and a porch light that flickered like a dying memory. I rang the doorbell with trembling hands. Footsteps. Then the door creaked open. "Leah?" My mother blinked. "Wow, it's really you." She gave me a brief, stiff hug. "You look different." Inside, the scent hit me. Old wood polish, stale air, and that ever-present bowl of dried potpourri. The living room was packed. Conversations halted as eyes turned toward me. "Well, look who finally showed up," someone muttered. "Is she wearing sweats?" another whispered. I glanced down. Tailored black slacks and a designer coat. Quiet luxury, but clearly lost on this crowd. Then Dylan emerged from the kitchen beaming. "Everyone, this is Mia, my wife, and," he gestured at her belly, "your future niece or nephew." "Congratulations," I said. He smirked. "Still coding in a corner somewhere?" Laughter rippled. I felt my jaw tighten. "I work in tech," I replied calmly. If you've ever returned home with more power than they imagined, hit subscribe, because the next part of this story is where everything changes. "Tech, huh?" Dylan smirked. "Like fixing printers? Or answering help desk calls?" He turned to Mia. Leah was always the weird one, probably working out of some basement somewhere. I just smiled faintly, something like that. Mom clapped her hands. "Dinner will be ready soon. Leah, put your things down. Dylan's using your old room as his office now, so you'll be sleeping on the couch." Of course he was. Of course I would be. The night was a slow drip of condescension. Aunt Nora cornered me by the sad bowl of punch. "Your brother's starting his own business. He's such a visionary, and you're still in computers?" "I write software," I replied. She scrunched her nose. "Ah, well, someone has to do the boring stuff." Uncle Mike leaned over during dinner prep. "Dishwasher position's still open at my diner. Pays minimum wage, but it's honest." "Thanks," I said politely. "I'm good." At dinner, they sat me at the far end of the table, next to the kitchen door. Dylan, predictably, held the spotlight. "This is going to disrupt everything," he declared. "We just need the startup capital to launch." "How much?" Dad asked. 200 grand to get rollin', Dylan said casually. Nearly choked on my water. It was every cliché, failed startup pitch I'd ever heard. "We'll figure something out," Mom said, patting his hand. "Family helps family." After dinner, she handed me a blanket and gestured toward the couch. Christmas morning came with Dylan and Mia storming down the stairs like kids, presents piled high. They unwrapped mine, luxury gifts, thoughtfully chosen. "Leah, these are beautiful," Mom gasped, holding up her new bag. But when it came to my turn, "Oh no," Mom gasped, too loudly. "Leah, we completely forgot." Dylan burst out laughing, "Just like when we were kids." "Don't cry this time," he smirked. "You're an adult now." Something shifted inside me. Not sadness, not anger, just clarity. "I'm not going to cry," I said evenly, reaching into my purse. "Actually, I bought myself a pretty great gift this year." I pulled out my keychain and held it up. The brushed steel caught the light. Mom frowned. "What's that?" "Ease," I said simply. "To my new apartment. I closed on it last week." Silence fell like a dropped plate. Dad blinked. "You bought an apartment?" "With money," I said. "From my job. My company just licensed a cybersecurity framework I built to a major international bank. My cut was solid." Mom's eyes narrowed. "How solid?" I shrugged. "About $150,000. 0 cents after taxes." You could have heard a fork drop. Dylan's mouth hung open. Mia's eyes widened. Mom and Dad stared like I'd confessed to living a double life. $150,000 0 cents, Mom said, her voice pitching up. "What kind of job pays bonuses like that?" "I told you," I said calmly. "I'm a software developer. I build enterprise security systems for Fortune 500 clients. Dad leaned in. How long have you been earning this kind of money? Since graduation. The bonuses change, but my salary's been six figures for a while. That's when the switch flipped. Mom stood up, all sunshine and sugar. Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We're so proud of you. Dad chimed in. Dylan, did you hear that? Your sister works with Fortune 500 companies. Dylan's jaw clenched. Mia leaned in, whispering something into his ear. Mom perched beside me. So, tell us about this apartment. How many bedrooms? 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, Fort Greene. Close to work? She beamed. We should visit. Family should stick together. I almost laughed. Family? After 8 years of silence? Actually, I said, standing, I've got a long drive ahead. Mom reached for my arm. You just got here. Stay. Dad nodded. We haven't even talked about your career. As I packed, I could hear them whispering, voices hushed and urgent. When I came back downstairs, suitcase in hand, they were waiting, those eager, strained smiles already setting off alarm bells. Before you head out, Dad said, stepping forward, we should talk about Dylan's business opportunity. As you mentioned, he needs a little capital to get started. Dylan smiled like he was doing me a favor. It's a solid investment. You'd be in on the ground floor. How much? I asked flatly. Just $200,000, 0 cents, he said. With what you make, that's nothing, right? I looked at them. My parents, who once laughed when Uncle Mike offered me a dishwashing job. My brother, who spent a lifetime mocking me. And his wife, who chuckled along just yesterday morning. No, I said. The smiles vanished. What do you mean, no? Mom snapped. I mean, I'm not giving you any money. But we're family, Dad said, as if the word held any weight. I folded my arms. Where was family when I was told to find my own place the day after graduation? Or when you paid for Dylan's college, but left me to figure it out alone? That was different, Mom muttered. We didn't have money back then. You had money for Dylan, I said. Dylan showed promise, she barked, then immediately backtracked. I mean, we thought work would be better for you. I grabbed my bag. I need to go. You selfish brat, Dylan exploded. After everything this family did for you. What did you do? I asked. Raise me? Feed me? That's parenting, not charity. And you made sure I knew I wasn't wanted. I walked to the door as they followed, still protesting. You'll regret this, Mom shouted. I won't, I said, and meant it. By the time I hit the highway, my phone lit up. Calls, texts, guilt trips. I blocked them all at a rest stop. Back in Brooklyn, I poured a glass of wine and watched the city glow from my balcony. Sarah texted. Heard what happened. Sorry about them. Don't be, I replied. This was the best gift they ever gave me. Freedom. She sent back a laughing emoji. Your mom's telling everyone you're ungrateful. Let her, I wrote back. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke to a flood of messages, but not from my parents or Dylan. These were from aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Your mother told us what happened. How could you abandon your family? Dylan is trying to build something. You should support him. We always knew you were selfish. One by one, I blocked them. Every name, every guilt trip, gone. Except for Sarah. She called that afternoon. Jesus, Leah, she sighed. The whole family's imploding. Your mom called everyone, saying you're rich and won't help Dylan. Good for her, I said dryly. She's telling people you've forgotten where you came from. Of course she is. God forbid they admit that the daughter they ignored actually did something with her life. Sarah's voice softened. I'm proud of you, for what it's worth. It's worth a lot, I told her. You're the only one I care to keep in touch with. Are you really okay cutting everyone else off? Sarah, I said gently, I cut them off 8 years ago. This just made it official. That evening, I met my friends at our usual spot in Fort Greene. a cozy wine bar with worn leather booths and fairy lights over the bar. I told them everything. Good riddance, Lisa said. They sound toxic as hell. Do you think you'll miss them? Another friend asked. I thought about it. No, I think I've been mourning the family I never had. This just close the book. I raised my glass. To chosen family. To chosen family, they echoed, smiling. As we toasted, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I switched it to silent. 6 months later, summer had wrapped the city in sunlight. I sat on my balcony, coffee in hand, watching the morning unfold below. It felt like emerging from a fog I hadn't realized I'd been living in. Sarah still called weekly with updates, not because I asked, but because she cared. Jake's daughter was born last month, she told me. Madison. That's nice, I said, and meant it. I hoped that little girl would be loved better than I was. According to Sarah, Dylan and Mia were still living with my parents. The big startup? Still just talk. Even the relatives were getting tired of hearing about it. Apparently, my parents had turned my betrayal into their favorite sob story. At every family gathering, they painted me as the ungrateful daughter who vanished despite all their sacrifices. Meanwhile, my life had taken a turn I wouldn't trade for anything. 3 months after that disastrous Christmas, I met Ethan at a coffee shop near my office. A freelance designer with a gentle smile and a deep respect for boundaries, he understood the tech world, and more importantly, understood what it meant to walk away from a toxic family. He had done it too. Work was thriving. I'd been promoted to lead systems architect for a major AI security integration. The pay raise was great, but what thrilled me more was the freedom to build something groundbreaking. My team respected me. My ideas mattered. I was finally building the kind of life I used to dream about from a lumpy couch in my parents' basement. About a month ago, Dylan somehow got hold of a new number and called. Hey, Leah, he said, awkwardly chipper. Thought we could catch up. What do you want? I asked. Hurry, Madison should meet her aunt. Things are tight right now. Mom and Dad's house needs work. No, you don't even know how much. Doesn't matter. He exploded. I hung up, blocked the number. And as I sat there, in my own apartment, sipping coffee beside Ethan, I felt nothing but peace. Everything they said I'd never have, love, stability, success, I built on my own terms. Sarah later mentioned they were turning my old bedroom into a nursery. It didn't sting. That room never felt like mine. This one does. They still tried reaching me through distant cousins and family friends. My favorite was Aunt Nora's voicemail. Family is forever, Leah. But I'd already walked away, and I wasn't turning back. Ethan and I were planning a trip to Japan next month. We'd been learning the language, mapping temples, and bookmarking noodle shops. Sarah messaged me, Mom saw your post. She says it's typical. You'd rather vacation than help family. Good, I said. Maybe she'll finally get it. Last week, I was promoted to head of engineering, top 1% salary. My boss said, you earned this. We celebrated with friends. Lisa joked, your mom probably sensed your bank balance went up. That night, Ethan brought champagne to the balcony. Let's buy a house, I said. With space, a yard, maybe a dog. My phone buzzed. Sarah again. Mom says you must be a drug dealer. I laughed. Let them spin their stories. I'm living mine. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me what you walked away from, what peace you built. Your support reminds me that I'm not alone, and maybe you need that reminder too. My advice? Don't wait for permission to choose yourself. Build the life that reflects your worth, not their expectations. And if you relate, hit subscribe. Let's grow together.